Welcome to our video on comparative advantage, brought to you by Canjo.com. Comparative advantage is one of the fundamental building blocks of economics, like opportunity cost. To illustrate this, let's take a trip to the land of Canjolia, where our friends Joe Canjo and Kelly are busy manufacturing and consuming bread and milk. Let's first take a look at Joe's production capacity. In 1 hour, Joe Canjo can either produce 5 loaves of bread or he can produce 10 bottles of milk. So he has a choice. Now Kelly has a different production capacity. In 1 hour, Kelly can produce either 15 loaves of bread or 2 bottles of milk. So as you can see from this, Joe is quicker at producing bottles of milk, while Kelly is quicker at producing loaves of bread. Now, both Joe and Kelly each need exactly 30 loaves of bread and 20 bottles of milk. So let's see what happens if they try to meet their individual needs by themselves. Let's start with Joe. Now, Joe needs 30 loaves of bread, and he produces this bread at 5 loaves per hour. So it'll take him 6 hours to produce the bread he needs. Now, with the milk, he needs 10 bottles of milk, and he produces it at 10 bottles per hour. So it'll take him 1 hour. 10 divided by 10 is 1 hour. So the total number of hours he'll spend is 6 hours on the bread plus 1 hour on the milk is a total of 7 hours. Now, let's look at Kelly. Kelly produces bread a lot faster, so she also needs 30 loaves of bread, but here she will divide it by 15 loaves per hour. It'll only take her 2 hours to make the bread, but she is slower at producing the milk. She still needs 10 bottles of milk, but she only produces it at 2 bottles per hour, so it'll take her 5 hours to produce the milk she needs. So, once again, her total is 2 hours for the bread plus 5 hours for the milk is 7 total hours. So, between the two of them, they would spend 14 hours if they produced their goods individually. But what if instead they focused on their strengths? And this is where the law of comparative advantage starts coming into play. So instead of each of them making their goods separately, Joe makes all the milk because he's good at that, and Kelly makes all the bread because that's what she's good at. So let's see what happens. Joe will make 20 bottles of milk, because he needs to make milk for both himself and Kelly, divided by 10 bottles per hour, that's his rate, and that will take 2 hours of work for him. Now, Kelly, on the other hand, she needs to make 60 loaves of bread now, because she's making 30 for herself and 30 for Joe. She divides this by her rate of production, 15 loaves per hour, and that's 4 hours of work. And then, here's where it gets interesting. Joe and Kelly can trade the bread and milk to each other to get the amounts they need, and they can set prices as determined by the marketplace. This is the law of comparative advantage. You can focus on your strengths, focus on what you're good at, and then trade for what you need. And this will save the overall economy time and resources. As you can see in this example, Joe and Kelly, if they focus on their strength, they only spent 6 hours total. 2 hours for Joe and 4 hours for Kelly, as opposed to each of them spending 7 hours on individual work. So this is a good thing. They've produced the same amount, but it's taken them less time. And that is the strength of comparative advantage. Hope this video has helped you understand why comparative advantage is important and what kind of a role it can play in the economy. Thank you very much for watching. For similar videos, I recommend you check out my website, www.canjo.com.